A very long time ago, before great kingdoms were built and before people forgot the languages of trees and stars, there was a hidden lake. It was wide, deep, and shining like silver. If anyone looked into its waters, they could see not just their face, but also their secret dreams. In the deepest part of this lake lived a creature that no human had ever truly seen. It was a great serpent, older than the mountains and older than the stars. His name was Althar. His body was covered with scales that glowed like moonlight on water, and his eyes burned softly like fire. He was powerful, beautiful, and feared. Spirits respected him, shadows followed him, but still, he was alone. Althar had lived for centuries, watching people fall in love, build homes, and pass away. But he himself had never known what it meant to be loved. He was tied to the lake by an ancient promise and could never leave. No one stayed near him long enough to see his gentle heart, for they all ran in fear. Far away in the high mountains where the clouds rested, there lived a tribe of people who could control the wind. Among them was a young woman named Serya. She was different from the others. While her people used the wind for work, to guide ships, to send messages, or to protect villages, Serya danced with the wind. The breeze would swirl around her feet when she laughed. It would comb her hair when she sang, and it followed her like a friend. But even with this gift, Serya was not fully happy. She felt a hole inside her heart, as if something was waiting for her far beyond the mountains. She often stood at the edge of cliffs, staring at the valleys, wondering what her life was missing. One evening, as the sky turned purple and gold, Serya felt the wind pulling her. It whispered to her ears, calling her to go lower, down the mountain, to a place she had never been before. She followed the whispers until she reached the Silver Lake. People had warned her that this lake was cursed, that something dangerous lived beneath it. But instead of fear, she felt wonder. The lake glowed under the moon, and she heard a strange hum, like a deep voice calling from the water. She leaned close, and the serpent rose. Althar lifted his head above the surface, water dripping from his silver scales. His size was enormous, and his glowing eyes looked directly into hers. Anyone else would have run away in terror, but not Serya. She gasped softly, not in fear, but in awe, and whispered, "You are beautiful." Those 3 words struck Althar like lightning. No one had ever looked at him without fear. No one had ever called him beautiful. His heart, silent for centuries, suddenly beat with warmth. His voice rolled like thunder as he asked, "Why do you not tremble before me?" Serya smiled. Her hair floated in the gentle wind that circled around her. "Why should I tremble?" she said softly, "before something the moon itself shines upon so lovingly." From that night onward, everything changed. Serya returned to the lake again and again. Every evening, Althar rose from the depths, and they spoke for hours. He told her stories of the underworld rivers, of dream creatures that swam beneath the stars, of ages long gone. She sang to him the songs of the mountains, melodies the sky had taught her since childhood. The lake, once quiet and feared, now echoed with laughter and music. But love between such different beings could not stay hidden. The valley spirits grew restless. They feared that if a human and a serpent joined hearts, the balance of the world would break. Meanwhile, Serya's people noticed her absence. One night, they followed her and saw her standing at the edge of the lake, whispering to a shadow in the water. Horrified, they dragged her away. They warned her, "The serpent is cursed. His kind only bring destruction. If you keep going to him, the winds will leave you forever." Seria's heart ached. She loved her people, but she could not stop thinking of Elthar. Days passed, and she resisted, but the winds betrayed her secret. At night, when she cried, the winds carried her sobs across the valley to the lake. Ealthar heard her and rose from the depths, calling her name, shaking the trees with his voice. Finally, she could not stay away. She ran back to the lake. That night, she stepped onto the water itself. Instead of sinking, the lake held her, lifting her gently until she reached him. She pressed her head against his shining scales and whispered, "If you are cursed, let me share it. If you are bound, then bind me to you." And with that promise, everything changed. The lake lit up as if filled with stars. The wind stopped moving. The very threads of fate began to loosen. Ealthar felt the ancient chains around him weaken, breaking apart one by one. But such power came with a cost. The valley spirit screamed with rage. Storms lashed the water. The winds turned violent. The earth itself shook. Ealthar coiled protectively around Seria, while she called every bit of wind she could command. Together, they fought the storm of fate. For hours the battle raged, lightning splitting the sky, waves crashing like mountains. At last, dawn arrived. The first sunlight touched the lake and silence fell. The spirits retreated, defeated by something greater than power, defeated by love. But still, the price had to be paid. Ealthar could not live fully as a man, and Seria could not remain fully human. So they chose another path. At night, when the moon rose, Ealthar took the form of a man with silver eyes and hair that flowed like water. At dawn, when the winds awoke, Seria became like mist and joined him beneath the lake. They were never apart again. Travelers who passed by the Silver Lake in later years told stories of laughter carried on the breeze, and of two figures dancing across the waters in moonlight. Lovers who whispered promises by the lake felt the waters stir as if blessing them. And so, the world remembered that once, against every rule of nature, a serpent of the lake and a girl of the wind had chosen each other. Their love had broken curses, shaken spirits, and created a new destiny, one where love itself was stronger than fear. But the story did not end at the lake. For though Ealthar and Seria had given up parts of themselves, the moon and the winds blessed them with a gift neither expected: a child. In a small wooden house by the edge of the Silver Lake, nestled among tall, whispering pines, their son Calith was born. His eyes shimmered like molten silver, carrying the calm depth of the waters. Yet when he laughed, the air itself stirred, and the winds circled him playfully, carrying his joy to the treetops. His hair flowed like river light, but when he moved, it carried the freedom of the skies. He was both water and air, lake and mountain, a hybrid of two worlds that were never meant to meet. The spirits who once cursed the love between serpent and wind now watched in silence. For the boy was proof that the balance of nature had not been broken, but remade. Where his father had been bound and his mother had felt empty, the child carried both freedom and belonging. At night, the wooden house glowed with warmth. Saria humming lullabies taught by the wind, Elthar telling ancient stories of stars reflected in the lake. Calith listened with wide eyes, already knowing that he was meant to shape a new destiny. Travelers who passed through the valley sometimes caught sight of him, a boy running across the water's surface as if it were solid, his hair flashing silver in the sunlight, the wind pushing at his back like wings. To them, he was a miracle. To his parents, he was their love made whole. And so, the legend grew, not only of the serpent and the wind, but of the child who carried their powers. Calith, a boy born of moonlit waters and singing skies, destined to weave together what once was divided. If you like this story, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below what you want to see next. Subscribe to our channel, Timeless Tales. See you next time with more stories like this.